Hi friends, I'm Liz.
I'm Robby. Welcome to our channel, Bookworm Couple. Today we're going to be talking about the third book?
Technically.
Yes, the third book in the Throne of Glass series, Heir of Fire, by Sarah J. Maas.
I got it.
There it is. We have a physical copy of it this time.
A classic, classy library copy. Ooh, look at the art. It just feels good in your hands.
It's very heavy. It makes the book look much bigger. I can use my words.
Yeah, it does, which I like. Alright, Robby has read Heir of Fire.
I have. What are your thoughts on this book?
This was not my favorite book
Great.
in the series.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
We can go into it more. We'll go into it more.
Okay. Yeah, this wasn't mine either. I liked this more than Assassin's Blade, but based on how excited I was from the huge jump in quality I thought from book 1 to book 2, the quality of it wasn't particularly, I thought, like a step back. The writing continues to improve. However, I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, I felt like
it's
this
a hard
one,
read.
I think you could tell from the beginning that this was set up. Like, this whole book was kind of set up.
Yeah.
At least that's kind of how even before I had read the entire series, I could kind of feel like this was setting up a lot of things. Because we got introduced to new characters, we went on a whole journey.
But my problem with this book is the first half of it is like a slog. It really is. And not a ton happens in any of the plot lines. No, like a ton. This book is super backloaded. A ton happens in the back end of the book. Also, I thought the pacing was kind of odd. Not necessarily in what was happening in each storyline, but when the author chose to give us a chapter of each storyline, specifically in the latter half of the book, in part 2 of the book, we were with one storyline for a very long time. Such a long time that by the time we returned to the other storylines in the last 10 to 20% of the book, I had honestly forgotten that at least one of them was in this book. It had just been a really long time. It felt such a strange decision. So I thought some of the pacing choices specifically did not work in this book's favor.
Yeah, it's a little disjointed, I think.
It feels a bit disjointed. It does feel like a setup book. It has very much middle book syndrome. It feels like the plot that for this book was used to make it like the inciting incidents or like the big climaxes. You knew what was going to happen, and you've read something similar to it in another book. And that's true for a lot of books, and it's always the continual struggle with books that are more about massively expanding world building or doing a lot of setup for future events. But I felt that some of it was a little bit heavy-handed. There were just like moments in the main storyline that I'll get into that I was just like, yeah, I mean, you had to have some sort of conflict in this book. It couldn't just be 569 pages of we're going to explain some of the world building stuff and training, which I do love a training montage.
We love a training montage, but this whole book is a training montage.
Sure, yes. But anyway, so I struggled with that and certain characters' storylines, to say without any spoilers. But do you have anything else you'd like to say in the spoiler-free section of the video?
No. I think I got a lot to talk about, like specifics with this book with you. I'm curious of a lot of specifics with this book, but yeah, I think in general it just wasn't my favorite of the series. Is it necessary? 100%.
Okay, well in that case I think we'll go ahead and jump into the spoiler section of our video. So if you have not read Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas yet, I highly recommend that you leave and go read it and then come back and watch our video then, and we will start talking about spoilers in 3, 2, 1. She is so emo.
She's so emo. This is emo. This is emo.
And at the beginning I thought it was funny. Like, when it started, I was like, oh man, emo, Selena, great, let's do it. And then it was a trudge.
Which I feel has great reference.
Thank you.
I feel like is sort of good to go through that with her.
Sure.
It's exhausting to read. Specifically, I mean, there are so many books that I read this. I'm like, okay, you're fine. Like, you got it. I know what's gonna happen. I know you're gonna feel better. I know you're gonna fall in love with the person. I know you're gonna be the whatever. But it's definitely it's good to go through that with the main character to have that emotional journey. But it's not an easy thing to read over and over and over again.
No, it lasted too long for the payoff to be worth it in my mind. I was just like, it's a lot. And it also was paired with, as I was saying, I don't think anything really started like taking off until like over a third of the way through this book in any of the storylines, which is really tough when a book is almost 600 pages long. That means that you're reading like nearly 200 pages before anything of particular note happens, at least in my opinion. Anything that I thought was super entertaining didn't come in until like about 30% of the way through the book.
Yeah.
All of the storylines were pretty slow. Like the Selena storyline, I understand what was going on, and arguably Sarah J. Maas successfully depicted what she was trying to do. I just think it lasted too long. I think that but then there was the Dorian storyline that was just kind of nothing really happened in it until the very, very end. The Kale storyline with Adel...
I think it's
Adian, whatever. Selena's cousin doesn't really kick off until about the third of the way through the book, and that's like where things really started to pick up, I thought, in the book. And then the storyline with Manon.
I think it's
Manon. And the witches, which I liked the entirety of, was a lot of setup for the beginning of the book as well, which is it's just unfortunate. It's just tough that all of the storylines, and necessarily a lot of them had to be a lot of setup, because one of them's a new POV character, you know, and both Kale and Dorian, actually Kale, Dorian, and Selena's storylines all include a new character, either at least one new character, or in Selena's case, an entire new continent, and a massive amount of world building that needed to happen, and all of that was necessary, but it made it really hard to get through the first half of the book, and yeah, I really struggled, and I just don't think the payoff was worth it, unfortunately.
I remember feeling similarly in the book, and it's interesting now having read the entire series, because one of my favorite characters is introduced in this book, and I didn't have any interest in their storyline whatsoever while I was reading it. Manon. But I remember feeling the same, and I remember being kind of disappointed, because I was like, oh man, we're being introduced to witches. I should be really excited about it. But obviously this was the first time we were really getting into the witches, and because of that, there was a lot of setup, and I just was like, not into it at the time of reading this book. But near the end, I definitely got more into it, and I remember being very excited at the hopes that I was going to get more witches in the next series, but I felt very similarly. It kind of felt like I need to, like, can we just like finish up this and then go on to something new?
I thought specifically I loved Manon's storyline. I think the witches, as I think I've said in previous videos, are like some of my favorite bits of world building that Sarah J. Maas has done in this world. I really like learning more about them. I'm very excited that obviously Manon is, you know, becoming good. I mean, duh. This doesn't seem like a series in which they're going to follow a evil POV character for that long, which was just kind of a guess I made, and I think I'm right. I think Manon is great. I think learning more about the witches is great. I think that entire plotline was a lot of fun. I also think that it didn't need to be in this book. I don't understand, like, and I mean, I'm sure I'll see more in the next book, and I enjoyed reading about it in this one, and I'm sure that all that setup will pay off in a big way, specifically in the next book, because that's the only thing that makes sense to me. But coming right off of Assassin's Blade, which was 4 short stories that I still am not convinced at all that I actually needed, and reading what was an entirely self-contained story within a larger novel, I'm just like, why didn't you just write this as a novella? You could have taken every Manon chapter out of the book and published it separately, or you could have done a much more ballsy thing and taken all those chapters out and put them as an extended, like, epilogue or part 1 of your next book. I think all of those would have been maybe a better choice. I can't say for sure because I haven't read the next book or continued reading the series, but it felt a bit odd because it just... My problem with the plotline in the beginning, before I really got invested in all of it, was I'm like, how is this going to... I understand that, like, they're doing this for the king, but how is this going to play a larger role in the rest of the series with all of the other plots that are connected? And it's still not, even by the end of the book, it still wasn't really connected to any of the other plots.
Yeah.
And so I was
You've got an 8-book series.
You do have an 8-book series, but if you're open to writing short stories and novellas, you may as well publish that as one of them. I think. I don't know. That's just my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see how that changes.
Speaking of the witches, how do you feel about characters? We got a couple new characters.
Loved the characters. Also loved Abraxas. The best. Smell those flowers. Good boy. What a good boy. Love Abraxas. Love Manon. I like the 13. The 13 are cool. They're fun. I love the witches.
Yeah.
They're great. And the reveal at the end, sorry, I'm still going on about that plotline, but the reveal at the end where they're in their own power to change it, I'm like, this is good stuff. Like,
It is
I'll
really
read
good
this.
stuff.
New characters, Rowan, sure. Whatever, yeah, he's got I'm an immortal being. You know what I want to do? Get a face tattoo. That seems like an awesome idea.
Tattoo.
Sure,
Come
fine.
on.
That marks all of my very sad things that have happened to me. Yes.
Sad boy face tattoo.
Sure, fine.
Instant face.
Sad boys will do sad things. Look, Rowan's fine. I like Rowan. I think that it's absolutely unhinged and incredibly hilarious that, which we had, this has not been revealed, this is a bit of world building that we got, that all Fae have an animal form, and Selena's animal form is a human. That is absolutely insane. I couldn't stop laughing when that was revealed. I can't curse. That is crazy. It is so ridiculous. It makes no sense.
I completely forgot that little bit.
And literally all that it says to explain it away is Selena's form is a human, and that's an animal just like any other. And then they never talk about it again.
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong, but it's crazy.
Also kind of sad. Like, I would want to be an animal.
Yeah, right? Kind of lame. But anyway, I liked the new characters in Selena's storyline. I really liked... So Rowan, Rowan's good. I liked Rowan. I liked his crew.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun. I was like, oh, cool, he's got a crew.
I like face tattoo and a crew.
Emrys is the MVP of that storyline. I'm sure I might be pronouncing that name wrong.
Actually, I don't know.
Emrys and Malachi, couple goals. Luca was really nice too. I liked Luca a lot. He was very fun. I really liked the bit where she's with Rowan in the cave and Luca's on the ice just like talking to her. I liked that a lot. That was a lot of fun. I was sure one of them was gonna die, to be honest. I was just like, it's gonna be really... I literally wrote in my notes, I love Emrys. I'm gonna be super sad when he dies.
Yeah, they make you love him. It's one of those things, like, you're used to that feeling, like, they're gonna rip that away from me. Die. You're too good.
And I liked their entire subplot about how demi-fae are treated by full fae and how they don't fit in anywhere. I thought that was very well done. Particularly Emrys, I thought was a turning point of the book, in particular because the first time we get a Rowan POV chapter, it's after he has sent Selena away, I believe.
I don't remember.
Anyway, or probably. Selena ran away, whatever.
Yeah, classic.
And he comes in asking where she is. And Emrys suddenly goes on this monologue about how she's in so much pain and someone, she needs people to be there for her, and how he knew her mother. And it was the first time that marked the moment where Selena finally kind of pulled herself out of the depression and funk that she was in. And whether or not this was on purpose, it worked very well because the entirety of the book leading up to this so far, anytime anyone had tried to reach out to Selena in that way, she had either mentally shut them down or been awful to them, to their, outwardly just said horrible things to stop them from saying nice things about her, essentially, whether she was doing that subconsciously or not. And so, this was the first time we heard someone say something nice about her and she didn't immediately contradict it. And so it was a really nice turning point. So I love Emrys. I think he's great.
Yeah, a good character, and he plays his role very well.
Yeah. And Maeve was a fun new villain, too.
I was about to say, I feel like you'd love Maeve.
Maeve was a good new villain. I really liked Maeve. I liked all of the world building with the Fae. I thought that was very good. I mean, that's the thing, is I can never really truly hate a setup book just because it's a setup book, because a lot of the setup stuff is why I like reading these books anyway. Yeah, I really liked Maeve. I liked their showdown. I liked both of their showdowns, the first and the second. I also really loved all the flashback scenes we got with her parents.
Yeah,
those were really nice.
It was sprinkled in well. And
yes, giving us context to why she never bothered to learn to use her powers, and the fact that it was her mother who was afraid of them, and her father was the one who wanted her to do them. And we even got more background of those with Adian, or however you say his name, who, segue, liked him too. I thought it was very funny when he came in because Kale described him as overwhelmingly tall and handsome.
Gotta be.
And I thought to myself, if everyone in this world is tall and ripped, you can't call someone overwhelmingly tall and handsome if that's what everyone looks like. And based on the descriptions, that pretty much seems to be the case. But, I liked him a lot. I thought that he was it is not a super surprising twist that he is not actually working for the king. That wasn't super shocking to me.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy, him playing into that role in the beginning before Kale found out his true intentions, and also the implications of how not only powerful but brilliant he must be to be able to fool the king, as well as keep an entire army of expats, refugees, and sympathizers secret from the king.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant strategist, for
yeah,
sure.
Brilliant strategist. Yeah, and that entire plot line with him and Kale and sometimes Dorian, I liked. The other characters that sometimes got brought in, like, I think his name is Ren.
Yes.
And his uncle and grandfather. Yeah, that was, I liked that they tried to keep it relevant with the larger world and other things that were happening. But, I'm trying to think, I think I liked basically all of the new characters.
How about Sorsha?
I did like Sorsha.
Took you a minute.
It took me a minute.
Mm.
I wish that she had had more to her than just kind of like, I'm in love with Dorian. But I still liked her as a character.
Yeah.
And
it was nice to see Dorian have some sweet,
I love
sweet
Dorian.
romance.
Dorian is the best boy.
Yes.
And he just...
Learning how to use his magic. Go him.
Yeah, learning how to use magic. It was great. I liked that a lot. The ending of that was really brutal. I did not expect her to just die.
Just fully
get decapitated. And then the king just collaring Dorian. Mm-hmm. I was not expecting that.
It was like,
yeah,
one of those
I'm
moments.
interested to see what happens with that. I really hope that Dorian doesn't die or get like irreparably damaged, because I like him and he is very pure, even though he's kind of stupid. But we love him very much. Yeah, that was intense. And everything, I guess, talking about world building with the Volg. Is it am I saying that correctly?
I think Volg.
Yes. So that was clearly the point of this book, and that's great.
We're learning
learn more about the Volg.
What's happening.
And the entire, so, when I said earlier that I was like, it felt like the entire conflict was, kind of just forced in because they really just wanted to do some world building. The entire fight with the Volk showing up and stuff, and like us learning about them, and like there were some cool scenes, like when they had the Skinwalkers fight that Vogue and they thought they killed them, and I was like, oh, that's kind of clever and cool, I like that. And I liked things like that, but I never once thought that like, oh, this is going to be a real problem and people are going to like, and the heroes are going to lose. Like, yeah, they're obviously the entire, because it was just like, okay, so there's just a few of them this time, and so you're going to clearly fight them, and you're barely going to win, and then you're going to find out there are way more of them. And that is exactly what happened. And you've seen it a bunch of times, and it's fine. But it was just kind of like, okay, sure, fine. Just a very, very predictable plot. And it was preceded by the very Beauty and the Beast bit of, he said something mean, and so I'm going to run away, and then there's going to be monsters, and he's going to come save me from them, and then I'm going to start going, maybe I love him, and, it was just, okay, cool. So even, but that was at least around the turning point of when she stopped being so emo all the time, which I will take predictable over 250 pages of woe is me. So, So, but, there was a lot of other stuff that actually I really did enjoy in specifically Celaena's storyline. Like I said, I do like Rowan. I like that. I don't like that apparently we're not going to get him in the next book, or he's not going to be with Celaena. That bums me out. And that she's going back to being Celaena from Aelin. I'm like,
can we already do this?
Fine, we did this, fine. I'm glad that she's finally going to confront Arobynn, so she can stop being like, no, maybe he didn't betray me in her mind, because I'm kind of tired of reading about that.
He did.
Yes, we know he did. I do love that the word key is part of her amulet. Mm-hmm. That was part of her family heirloom.
That she's had forever,
That she's had forever. I liked all of her actually learning to explore her power and use her power and the inventive ways in which that was expressed. I thought that was very good. I love a training montage.
It's truly, and this whole thing was a training montage, and also you get those little bits of world building, like the word keys, and figuring out more of what the weird situation is on the other continent, and like the no magic thing and what's happening.
Yes,
and it's, you get those little peppered in of like, okay, this is starting to make sense. This is getting really interesting. At least that's how I felt, of like those little bits, like the Valg and like the word keys, as like those little bits of being like, okay, like I need to know.
Yeah, I'm starting to see where all of this is going, and you know, more information about Brannon and Maeve and her ex-lover Athril.
Gotta have an ex-lover.
Something like that. Yeah, that was all very interesting. I thought I loved during the fight that she got her hair cut off so that she could, you know, raise in fire with a transformation, much like, you know, Elsa in Frozen or something. I was like, okay, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, I thought that it was after about the 55%, whenever part 1 ended, I was like, okay, I'm into this now.
Yeah.
And it's less of a, you know, chore to read. And you know, I don't like giving such a bad rap to literally the entire first half of this book, at least from Celaena's story, where Celaena's storyline is concerned, but, you know, Sarah J. Maas set out to do something, and I think she did it relatively well. It doesn't mean that it's fun or easy to read. It's not, or enjoyable to read, because it's, at least I didn't find it so. And that's kind of the point, but, yeah. No, that's it.
I was just gonna ask how you like the witches storyline. I feel like we've talked a lot about Aelin, and like all the things that happened with the witches, and obviously the dragons.
Wyverns.
And like Abraxos. Like, how did you like that story?
I like that entire storyline. I like that entire storyline basically the whole time, except for the nagging thought in my head is, when is this going to become relevant to the actual plot of this book? And it never did. But, which is fine. But I liked that. I liked Manon. I liked everything about her. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was pretty obvious from the beginning that she was going to eventually, like, become good, quote unquote, whatever that means, but less nuts than the rest of her Iron Tooth sisters. I mean, I liked them. I liked the Wyverns. Abraxas rocked. I loved that the Stygian spiders became relevant. That was fun. That was a fun little side quest.
So see, you got a little bit.
I'm disappointed that none of the characters from that book didn't immediately show up. And if they don't show up in the next book, I'm going to be even more annoyed. Because there, like, one of them was mentioned. And that's it. Oh, actually, two of them. The Pirate Lord and...
watch out.
What is her name? Ansel. Were both mentioned. Not by name. I want them to be in the books, more relevant, because I don't need to. They could have written those exact same things, and I could have not read their stories, and it would have changed basically nothing. Sure.
You have 8 books.
Yeah, I have 8 books, but come on.
Relax.
Anyway,
give it a minute.
Yeah, so I really liked the witches storyline. I liked the dynamics between the different witches. I liked the hierarchies within the different clans. As I said, I really liked the 13, and this was actually what I was talking about at the beginning of the video, where I basically forgot that this plotline was part of the book by the time it came back at the end. This book kind of had the problem again with pacing in the latter half of, yes, Celaena's storyline got much more intense and a lot more started happening, and that was great, and I was really enjoying it, but we really only got that storyline for a pretty extended period of time until the end of the Valg conflict-ish, and that was like 80 or more % of the way through the book when that ended, and so then it kind of, like, a ton of stuff happened in every storyline in the last 10 to 15% of the book, but, like, by the time we got to the War Games, there was, like, less than 10% left of the book, and I was like, what?
How are we going to do
We're
this?
still doing this? And then the War Games were really short, and it was all just kind of, it felt very kind of slapdash and thrown together, and I was just like, why did we leave them for so long to then continue to this? It felt very odd, but I still enjoyed every bit of this, and I can't wait to see where exactly that's going to go. And I also, you mentioned before, like, world building and learning, you know, magic on one continent and not the other. I thought it was poetic that Kael, apparently the only person who's a main POV character who can't use magic, is the one who figured out how to bring it back. I did really like that. I liked the scene with him and Dorian and Sorsha and the little triangle of things and it freezing over the bowl and stuff. I very much enjoyed that kind of reveal. I was
boy,
like,
Kale.
look at our scholar Kale. Look at him go.
I can give you a quick hot take.
Yeah, give me some hot takes. Yeah, what do you think? A lot of me talking.
No, that's good, as you should. I was not sold on Rowan at all in this book. I had a hard time. I knew Rowan was introduced. I was like, he's the love interest.
How did you know
Got
he
it.
was... Oh, you knew when he was
No, when he was introduced
sure.
that he was going to be the love interest. I don't dislike the character. I just, like, I didn't get the chemistry between the two of them at the beginning, and I felt, like, so crazy because I had seen enough, like, book talk and book two that I knew that people loved Rowan and Aelin, because it's obvious that they like each other without any real spoilers going on. And I just was like, and I don't know, I'm a pretty easy please. I will say, I don't know if you want to talk about the fact that they are related, really threw me off.
They're like super distantly related.
They're super distantly related, but I didn't understand that. Also, whatever. I don't know that we need to talk about this. It was the fact that their distant relation was just like kind of thrown in. It really threw me off, and there's not like a whole lot of explanation of like.
And then they bring that up with Adian too, and I was like, I don't need to read incest.
Yeah, it was that, and it really like really threw me off reading the book. So I had a really hard time like shipping this relationship because I was like, what are but he grew on me.
All right, let's talk about Rowan then. Look, when Rowan came in...
We don't have to.
No, we will. I have things. I have thoughts.
Okay.
When Rowan came in, I was just like, it was less of a, I like him or I don't. I went, okay, I guess this is a thing.
Yes, that's exactly how I felt.
And, you know, I didn't think that there was chemistry between them, though I knew that that was going to be what was going to happen. I didn't really enjoy it because I was just like, I don't... Like, we know they're going to sleep together. I don't need to read a bunch of setup and, like, them kind of pretending they're not going to and telling themselves in their minds, well, it's a good thing I'm not attracted to him or her, whatever. I was just like, this is a waste of pages.
Yeah.
And I understand that people like the enemies to lovers tension, you know.
But they're not enough of enemies to really have that payoff.
No, they're not.
For me.
No, they're not. It would have been much more interesting to me if they were just friends from the beginning.
Sure.
And also, I didn't really talk about this before, but the entire plot line with like her being so like intransigent and stuff with him and like freaking out when she saw Maeve and stuff, I was like, I don't understand what's going on here. This was your plan. Mm-hmm. Why are you acting like so like this is the worst thing that could possibly happen when your plan was to find Maeve and look for answers? Yes. And then when you meet Rowan, you're like, oh, he's gonna lead me to Maeve. Oh no. And then when you meet Maeve, you're like, oh my god, it's Maeve. And I'm like, this is what you said you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I didn't.
But she's being emo and getting drunk.
Being emo, but it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
That part I was just like, okay. And she also spent a lot of like the end of last book being like, I need to find a way to not do what the king told me to do when he sent me to this continent while also making sure everyone is safe. And yet she didn't spend any time thinking about that during this book. But yeah, the whole her relationship with Rowan, I just was like, okay, I'm going to be reading about how they're not attracted to each other and then slowly realizing, wait, that's kind of hot. I'll just have to get through it.
That tattoo.
There's too much biting that happens. There's a lot of him biting her, and the idea of him being able to taste other men on her was weird. And the idea of other guys in the fort being able to smell that she doesn't want to be talked to also was odd.
We got a Fae thing. We love smell when it comes to Fae.
We're going to go into blood oaths now, and I have strong opinions.
Oh, God.
And they suck. And I also think they are to the detriment of the goal of what they are trying to achieve. Not in the story. In the story, it's to have complete obedience, and that's fine. But in the book, it's supposed to be like, this is stronger than like regular love, and it's so intense. And I think that the idea of regular love being something that you do not have a choice over lessens its impact. To me, you know, knowing that someone wakes up and chooses to be with you every day because of what you are to them and what they want to be to you, that's real love. That is something that is more impactful, I think, than saying like, Adian swore a blood oath to Aelin when he was a kid, which is another weird thing. And so he has no choice but to, be everything, be this protector for her. That's just a different type of servitude.
Yeah.
You can put love on it, and I understand that it's like in terms of like Fae having mates and all that stuff, it's hot and sexy and like it's animalistic, and I understand that that's the point. But I don't know. To me, it's just like, oh my gosh, why is everyone selling themselves into slavery to another person? And when Rowan did it right after she broke Maeve's blood oath to him, I was like, this is so dumb.
I am
that was
one
not a big romantic moment. I was like, this sucks.
Love a trope. I love a romantic trope. There are things that I love that I'm annoyed that I love because I'm like, this is horrible. But I had that same feeling with Blood Oath. I was like, no.
Yeah, they could have done it later, and it would have had like, they could have done it eventually
in like a really choice moment,
in like a really beautiful moment.
Yeah,
and this agree. It was just like kind of flipping off Maeve, which is funny,
wonderful.
But it was also just like, it doesn't make sense to me because I'm like, everything it seems to fly in the face of everything we learned about Rowan. Like Rowan has been stuck in this blood oath for what, centuries? And he.
But I know the idea is that like he's so taken with this relationship with
crap.
her, but
but he's also thousands of years. He's
is
like hundreds of thousands of years old. He's not a freaking kid.
Yeah.
It's just
he's been through.
I was like, this sucks. That really bothered me. And then he's just being left on the continent. Which, to be fair, at least there's a valid reason of like there's no magic and you're not going to be able to switch from like you'd be stuck as a bird or whatever. Which I was like, okay, that's kind of fun. But also, I was just like, are we really not going to see Rowan for a whole book? I guess I'll find out soon. But I was just like, oh, come on. I finally just accept it. And now we're going to go back and there's going to be drama with Kale. I'm like, I get it. It's a romance book. There's going to be drama.
You're so exhausted by
just
it.
like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't do another love triangle. Don't make me, please.
You've got to have your hyper masculine, obnoxiously jealous, controlling men because apparently that's what we're all attracted to.
Apparently there's an entire race of them in this book.
Oh,
I was just like,
because Fae are territorial. Classic.
Fae are so territorial, and they're.
But I'll tell you, if you're reading a spicy book, you gotta love those tropes.
Whatever. It's
one of those things that it's like I find it annoying that I find it attractive because I am so against so much of that behavior in my real life, but there's something in like these fantasy scenarios that take you out of real life and into like, I don't know whether it's base needs or like what we've been like kind of taught to believe about love and relationships, at least as a woman. It like annoys me that I enjoy some of these tropes whilst I'm reading because I'm like, oh, I know it's horrible, like I know, and I would never, but I guess that's why we read.
You?
So we
I don't know. If I got a face tattoo and started acting really jealous all the time.
No, don't do that.
I'm not getting a face tattoo. Don't say hell yeah to that.
I signed up for face tattoo, not jealousy.
You should pick jealousy. That's crazy.
No, because I couldn't live with that.
Yeah,
it would make my life really hard.
I just, I couldn't believe Rowan. Just, whatever.
It was, but, that's my hot take.
Yeah. I don't think it's a hot take. I just, I'm sure it'll get better as time goes on. But no, not a fan. Not a fan. I like the character. I thought the character was interesting and somewhat compelling with a, of course, tragic backstory as we all must have.
Okay, any final thoughts?
No, I just, this was a bit of a slog. It really was. It was a bit of a slog to get through. I hope that the next books can really run with what this book has set up, and I really hope that this book has set up enough that the next books can run instead of kind of trudge along like this one seems to have for me. Yeah, fair. Okay. Or do you want to read the next one? Yeah, I'm not going to stop. No, I know, but I mean, are you intrigued to read the next one? It's not, if I was reading these on my own, I would probably take a break. Okay, that's fair. I would probably pick up another book in between.
That's right.
Especially because this is coming back to back from Assassin's Blade, and
Which you didn't like.
Which I didn't like.
Yeah.
And this one I kind of felt middle of the road on. I think that a lot of really cool stuff happened, especially at the end. I did like particular storylines, but overall, the main plot of this was Selena's, and I really struggled with that.
That's right.
So speaking of, what should we rate this? As we're both like looking at the book off camera, what should we rate this on?
I was gonna say falcons. Is that what Rowan is? Is he a hawk or a falcon?
I think he's a falcon.
He's a falcon, right?
What's the difference?
Very good question, and I'm sure birders would know that.
Birders, yes.
Or it can be Abraxas.
Wyverns, that could work, but that has nothing to do with the rest of the plot, as I said, and I do feel that would be somewhat...
So it's gotta be...
Cool, we'll do
a hawk.
/falcons, I'm not sure which is which, but same difference. Okay, I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5 hawks.
That's all right.
I think it was better than Assassin's Blade, largely because of the fact that it was one continuous story, but it was tough. Like the whole first half of the book was hard to get through, and that's not something you want to say, especially not about the third book in a series.
I would give it a 3.5 hawks because I just was still really excited to keep on reading because I liked the world and the story, but this was not my favorite one.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks so much for watching. Let us know in the comments down below if you agree, if you disagree. What did you feel about Rowan when you first, when he was first introduced, when you read this book? Were you like super into that relationship, or did you not pick up on it or not enjoy it until future books?
Team face tattoo or team no face tattoo?
Team face tattoo or team no face tattoo? That's the real question.
Yeah.
Please like and subscribe to see any of our future videos, and
thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on our next adventure.